Welcome once again to The Sage, and thank you for being with us. Thank you, because without you, this show would indeed be meaningless. And so each week that you join us, we are grateful and we feel privileged. Welcome once again. Today's show is a continuation of the past few weeks and months in which we have reflected on our collective and powerful will to make our country, our great country, a better one. This we first demonstrated when we all recently trooped out to vote, passionate about selecting our leadership. But making our country a great one doesn't just start and end with issues of leadership. Each and every one of us has a responsibility. And so we started this series that are looking at some of the key areas of responsibility, where if we each citizen of this country do our best, we will indeed make our country a better place. A country where our common bounty, abundant common bounty, can be more equitably distributed and get to all of us. Working together, we can make our country take its place, its rightful place in history. And so in the previous episodes, we had looked at issues of family in nation building. We had looked at issues of the young people's role in nation building. We'd looked at religion in nation building. We'd looked at the issue of creative arts and their power to energize nation building. Today, we go to another very, very important sector or topic, the issue of education. How can education be of strategic importance in this our quest to build our nation? Why education? I'm sure nobody is asking that question, because it is, to my mind, obvious why education is important. What is education after all? Education is all about imparting knowledge, imparting information. It can be formal or informal, but the point is that for us to learn in whatever area it is by a process of education. And so in whatever areas we need to progress in our country, we all get there. We teach our young, we teach all of us, our young, our old, everybody, through the process of education, effective education. We need to build the structures, we need to do it efficiently and practice it so that the results of that education is a country that grows and is strong in its various areas. In fact, I don't think that if we do not educate effectively, that we will really ever progress. And so education is critical. It is critical for our young in teaching them to be good citizens, to be efficient professionals or whatever, but also for all of us. As knowledge expands, as we learn the various arts of living, everything is through the process of education. And so to discuss this so very, very important topic, we have a really wonderful person on set with us today. It's such a privilege to come and discuss what her experience in using education to foster our nation has been. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll introduce our wonderful guest to you. A real hidden treasure. Welcome once again to The Sage. We've come to the truly exciting part of the show. I promised you that we have a treasure on this topic of education here with us on set today. Please join me in welcoming Professor ECHENDU DOLLY ADINMA to The Sage.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure being here.
I am thrilled to have Professor ADINMA on set for many, many reasons. I must admit immediately that I have known her a long time and have every reason to believe she's one of the most competent in these things we're talking about. I can only do her justice by reading a little bit of her bio so that you understand from where I'm coming. Professor ECHENDU ADINMA is a professor of community medicine / public health. She is a lecturer par excellence who has taught for many, many years, teaching both undergraduate and postgraduate students in medicine. She has a string of qualifications. I mean, I can shuttle them out. MBBS, MPH, MFPH, MD, FMCPH, FWACP. Those are colleges, postgraduate colleges that she's a member, as well as the FNA Med. She is also a fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Medicine. She's a fellow of the West African College of Physicians. She's a fellow of the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria. A professor, as I said before, of community medicine and of public health. She's a lecturer in Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka, Anambra State. Has been the past head of community medicine in that distinguished institution, a past coordinator of primary health care, a past coordinator of the residency training in the university, a past faculty secretary of the West African College of Physicians, a past faculty chairman of the West African College of Physicians Nigerian chapter. She's an examiner for the West African College of Physicians. She's a member of the accreditation team of several teaching hospitals in this country. She's a member of the Federal Government Technical Working Group on Sexually Transmitted Diseases. She is currently the Director for Sustainable Development Center of Nnamdi Azikiwe University. And trust me, we shall bring her back on set to discuss the work of that wonderful center. She's been a consultant and is a consultant for several international agencies, including UNFPA, CEDA, WHO. She's a past national president of the Medical Women Association of Nigeria. And in addition to these many, many distinguished professional achievements, accomplishments, it is with pride I also say that it doesn't end with professional things. She is a traditional title holder. She's an Iyom Ugo Di Ebube. Iyom Ugo Di Ebube. Let me say it properly, meaning the glorious eagle in her hometown, Newi, in Anambra State. And she is very happily married to a professor of obstetrics and gynecology, Professor Brian ADINMA, and they have 5 lovely children and 7 wonderful grandchildren. She's also, again, as I said at the beginning, a wonderful human being to know and associate with. I can say that with authority. I have known Professor ADINMA for many years. She's a kind, gentle human being, generous, loyal, in addition to all her professional accomplishments. Professor ADINMA, it is truly a pleasure to have you on set. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for your kind words. And thank you for bringing me to this stage.
And so it's such a pleasure because I know I have watched you grow. I feel like a big sister myself. And let me remind our audience that I am also a public health physician, a previous lecturer. So I feel as if it is a life, it was my other life. So I am so proud and so sure of the competency for which we brought you here on set to talk. How did you get to where you are? To become, you're a doctor. It takes quite something to be a doctor. You're an accomplished physician with so many degrees that attest to that. You're a seasoned lecturer. You're a woman. How did it all come to this?
Thank you very much, Dr. Kechi Obuagu. And I must say, you are indeed a big sister to me, a motivator, a role model.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I had looked up to you in several ways. My education career has been a long journey. And it's been a journey with determination, with being focused in what I do, in looking up to people that I see that are role models. In my secondary school days, I said to myself, if I cannot find a way, I will make it myself. It was a bit like a slogan to me. And I was always aiming for the top. They say what a man can do, a woman can do and do better. So I had looked up to people who had gotten to a very high heights in the academic world, in professional endeavor too. I grew up in the midst of brothers and sisters who were school teachers.
Okay.
And I said, I must have another route. I will navigate. I jettisoned the teaching profession at that lower level.
Not knowing you will come back to it someday.
Oh my goodness. That was it. So it has been quite exciting for me, my journey. And I look back and say, to God be the glory, having achieved this so far. Yeah, that's what I can say about my journey, becoming a medical doctor, a specialist in public health, as well as a university professor. Thank you very much for that question.
Mm-hmm. I mean that's wonderful. What you said, embodies it all. Really, there has to be a way. One makes a way. That determination that one needs, particularly when you're a woman and you're an African. You're a woman, African, Black. We say those are all the things that weigh against you. To achieve, it's good for you to make it, to say it, so that all our young viewers and all our viewers out there understand that it is that singular determination that gets you where you want to go. And so thank you for demonstrating and sharing what it took for you to get where you are. And so you are here with us. You've kindly consented to come discuss this important issue of education in nation building. We think it's important. That's why we're discussing it. But what do you think? Do you think, well, I think you have two professions that are very crucial here. You're a doctor, you're a medical doctor. That in itself is another topic for discussion later. The role of health and health providers in nation building. But in addition to that, you combine that with being a teacher of graduate and postgraduate students. So do you think your role as a teacher, do you think education is important to nation building?
Yeah, education is quite critical for any nation building. I can describe a nation without educated people is just like preparing a soup, a pot of soup without salt. It becomes so tasteless.
Absolutely. They cannot perform.
There is no way they can perform. So education, which is, by the way, the development of human resources, human capital for the nation, is providing the relevant knowledge, skills, and values to an individual to make the individual to be able to participate fully and meaningfully in the society. So education is quite critical for any national development. Education contributes mainly in the area of nurturing responsive citizens for the country, people with civic engagement, people who have critical minds, who can analyze and be quite independent in life. It also helps in our democratic values, as well as helping in inculcating and promoting our good cultural values. So I think, in a nutshell, education is quite critical in nation building.
Absolutely. Can I capitalize on your experience, your vast experience, and say, as you look back in your own career, where in your dealings, you can look at it from two different perspectives. Your dealings, first of all, perhaps as an educator, a lecturer, where some of you've been able to tangibly do some of these things. When you talk about nurturing or civic engagement or even the issue of democracy and so on, do you have examples that we can learn from?
Actually, as a medical practitioner, cum lecturer in the university, my areas, the main thematic areas that I've been engaged in areas of clinical services, training, and research with innovations. In terms of clinical services, I have along the line been able to provide services at local, state, and national levels.
Okay.
Health services encompassing preventive healthcare services. In preventive healthcare services, let's take, for example, primary preventive measures, where I've been able to conduct most health education, health promotion exercises, conducting seminars, outreaches, especially in the communities, and impacting very positively on our citizenry. In terms of secondary level of prevention, we've been able to conduct screening exercises, looking at cancers of the cervix, cancers of the breast, and other cancers for men, prostate. In my journey as a medical doctor and a leader in one of the non-governmental organizations, Medical Women's Association of Nigeria, we were able to impact a lot to our communities in conducting most of these screening exercises. The program is still ongoing. Then in training, I must say I've had the privilege to train so many generations of medical doctors, both at the undergraduate level and postgraduate levels. And it gladdens one's mind when these people that you have trained have all become big men and women in the society, even bigger than you as a professor. It gladdens one's heart to know that you've been able to impact on several lives, making them professionals. Some are even professors now with me, those that I have trained. So it's really an exciting journey to be a medical doctor, a trainer. Apart from the undergraduate training, I've been involved for the past several years in training postgraduate doctors in the specialty of community and public health. As you read in my bio, I belong to both colleges that train postgraduate doctors in Nigeria. The West African College of Physicians that spans across beyond Nigeria to all the countries in the West Coast. So in that college, I've been able to impact on so many postgraduate doctors. I also trained for the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria, producing specialists in public health. And when you see all these people that you have trained blossoming within and outside the country, it gives one that sense of fulfillment, that sense of joy that have really impacted on some other people. Being a role model, being a mother. In medical women, we say healing with the love and spirit of a woman. And this has guided my medical practice here in Nigeria and beyond. So in areas of training, I've been able to do these bits. Apart from the training, I'm also involved in research. Currently, I have over 100 publications.
Hold that. Let me interrupt you. Hold it. You're about to do research, but before we go there, let me just underscore the importance of some of the points you made, because these are huge achievements, and I like to say huge national contributions, because these young people that you have trained, some have even become professors and so on, is actually the evidence, concrete evidence that you're nation building, because that's what nation building is.
Exactly.
It is when we can claim with confidence and know for certainty that we have done our bit in producing fine human beings who are skilled and who are contributing to their country. And so we laud you and thank you for that. And I wanted to underscore the importance of that. And also, when you mention the community interventions, which you have also done in your dual role as a doctor and not just a teacher, it underscores the important contributions you have made to health. It is a healthy people that make a healthy nation.
Yeah.
And so there are beautiful illustrations of what we mean when we say nation building. What we all do, what you are doing in your capacity as a doctor and a lecturer in building this nation. So don't mind me. Let's go back to your research.
Thank you so much. I've been quite involved in conducting researches, especially in the area I love most, reproductive health care and health management. Yeah, so over the years, I've applied myself so well. I've been able to come up with several publications in indexed journals and some technical reports too, because in most of the organizations I did work with, as you said in my bio, the UNFPA, WHO, CIDA, I was privileged to have been trained as an international consultant to UNFPA. And that took me to several countries in Africa, where I had gone to develop their strategic plan on commodity security. And by the way, courtesy of this lady, this powerful lady that is interviewing me.
You've let the cat out of the bag.
I recall in 2007, she took me up from my department, took me to Cape Town, where we had training as international consultants on reproductive health commodity security. And since then, the door was open for me to do UN job. And this has taken me to countries like the Kingdom of Lesotho, Liberia, Sierra Leone, where I had gone to develop their strategic plans. Even here in Nigeria, I was part of those who developed one of the strategic plans for Nigeria on commodity security. So it's indeed my pleasure.
Yeah. You were one of my star students, so to say. And it's so good. It's so good to see how you have grown, and the impact you're making in so many ways in our country today. As I said before, we're looking forward to your coming on the show again to discuss your role as the director of the Sustainable Development Center. So we've listened with rapt attention. You've described the many wonderful achievements. And yet we know it's not been easy. It's never easy, particularly in our country, Nigeria. And so I'm going to ask you, you are a physician, very much a part of the health system. You're a teacher, a lecturer. And these two systems, health and education, we're also very much aware are one of the weakest, have some of the greatest problems in this country. What do you think are the weaknesses that still exist? With a view to, perhaps suggesting we need to improve, what we need to do to improve.
Actually, we need to improve. And in fact, it's long overdue for us. Apart from conducting researches and publishing, we've been able to use our findings as evidence-based data to influence policies.
Okay, I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
Because I tend to feel that sometimes academics tend to write it in the language of academia, write it in the journals, but translating research into policy action is so important. Perhaps, yeah. So let's hear about that.
In one of my researches, the one I must say I love very much, on community healthcare financing, we did a baseline survey on health insurance scheme, especially community-based health insurance scheme. We had model health centers that we used in Anambra State. And then, several years ago, when Professor Lambo was the Minister of Health, we had established, based on my research findings, on how community-based insurance scheme can run.
Okay, interesting.
So we mounted that, we used Anambra State as a pilot study. Lo and behold, the federal government came and took that model and replicated some other states in Nigeria.
Wow, that is a wonderful achievement. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of that. In the areas of reproductive health, part of my research also took me to the National Council for Women's Society. And the then president of the National Council for Women's Societies, Dr. Gloria, she now made me the head of the Committee on Health for the National Council for Women's Society in Nigeria.
Okay.
It was quite revealing to me that the little works I've been doing in reproductive health could also catapult me to the National Council for Women's Society. Along the way also, the Federal Ministry of Health recognized my work in reproductive health issues, and made me a member of the technical working group. And I've been in that technical working group since 2011 till date. Yeah. And we've been able to, the technical team and some other partners like WHO, they've helped in formulating the guideline on management of STIs in Nigeria.
Okay. We
had the first document in 2016, I think, and we are just about, in fact, we just concluded the revised edition a few months ago. That has helped me to contribute to the Federal Ministry of Health documents on management of sexually transmitted infections in Nigeria. I think I am the only public health physician in that technical working group. Others are drawn from microbiology, essentially obstetrics and gynecology. So that's another area of fulfillment to my journey of being a medical doctor and a lecturer in the university.
Yeah, and a perfect example of the fact that being a lecturer, a researcher, your work has been impactful.
Yeah.
It has indeed translated into action in some of the important health areas, policies and programs of this country.
Exactly.
So that is great. It couldn't be a better illustration of the importance of education, because when we do it well, when we do it with passion, when we produce good results, it builds our nation.
Yeah.
And so I will go on and take you by surprise and ask you, yes, you've talked about your achievements, but it couldn't all have been easy. We all know what we all tend to think about both your roles, careers in this country. What we think about the situation of the health in this country, and what we think about the situation of the teaching in this country. And I'm going to ask you, what do you think are the problems as well that continue to exist, with a view to perhaps suggesting what we can do to do better? So perhaps you want to start with the issue of health. What do you think are the negatives, the problems that continue to exist, which as a country we need to tackle?
The problems in health, so many of them. Where will we start? Is it on the part of the infrastructure, materials in most of our health facilities, health education in general in Nigeria, especially at the tertiary level? We've not really gotten it right. You look at all the resources needed to train this manpower. Is it the infrastructure in terms of materials? Is it the money that is pumped into these two systems? Money, material, and the manpower itself. Let me start by addressing the issue of problems with manpower, both the teachers and the students. Have we gotten it right? I'll say no. For the trainees, students at the undergraduate level, because of policy issues in Nigeria, I don't think we are getting it right. Take the question of admission into our tertiary institutions. Are we getting the right persons to come in to train? I'll give you an example. In the medical school, with this current system we have in Nigeria, you have the quota system, you have those that are coming in on merit. Especially in the area of quota system, I think it's a drawback to us, because we need to accommodate based on the federal character. You can imagine somebody from a particular state coming into medical school with a score of 300 plus. Because you want to accommodate the educationally disadvantaged regions, we are taking people who are scoring less than 200.
And so that is the quality of students you're now getting.
Exactly.
Lowering the quality a lot.
How can somebody who has less than 200 compete favorably in the classroom to qualify, say, as a medical doctor, a candidate that has come in with 300 and above marks? So in terms of policy, I don't think we are getting it quite right. You also look at the curriculum, very old curriculum that we are still using, giving students courses that are not really quite relevant to where they will practice eventually. I tell you what, I conducted a small focus discussion with students from a particular tertiary institution. They said they are giving courses that are not relevant to what they will practice eventually. They are reading long hours. They are in the medical school for several years. You can stay in the medical school, basically it's supposed to be 6 years. But because of strike actions, industrial actions in our university, these children are in the university for upwards of 7 to 10 years, doing some courses that are not relevant to them, not progressing at the pace they should be progressing to get out of the university. These are policy issues. Now, you take the issue of the trainers. Have you given them the enabling environment to teach these students? Most lecturers, even professors in the university, do not have offices.
Wow.
They share
Truly?
offices. So, what kind of enabling environment are you giving such teachers? Some people say universities are not supposed to close. You don't have a closing time for universities, and that should be the case. You don't say because 4 p.m. close of work, you carry a bag. That might be the time you will be in the lab doing some researches. If you don't have a good office to stay and you don't have the laboratory facilities to work with, what kind of a teacher will you be, and what kind of knowledge will you impact to the students? So when we hear the Academic Staff Union of Universities go on strike, people who are not there are not feeling the pains the ASU members are going through. You recall last year, ASU was on strike for almost like 8 years. 8 months rather, yeah. From February up to November of last year. And you expect them to cope with their families, and it was no work, no payments. So such people were not receiving, we were not receiving, I wouldn't say such people because I'm also involved. We're not receiving salaries. What kind of a teacher will you be? And that will also impact on the way the teachers carry themselves. You hear of people sorting out when they take exams, students take exams, they sort out themselves. Sorting out means parting with some money, or parting, you pay in cash or in kind.
That is terrible.
Especially the female fools. You are asked to bring some money, or you are sexually harassed. So this is the system where we have found ourselves, where things are not going right and people try to cut corners. So that's for the manpower resources, and I've touched a little bit on the material. We don't have an enabling environment to work. One should be encouraged to have a comfortable office to work with, to have enough classrooms to teach our students. You see students staying on the corridor and the window, listening to a lecturer who is not even using public address system, just to fulfill righteousness. They come around to sign attendance because that will inform the eligibility. If you don't make like 70% of attendance to classroom, you will not write exams. So it's pretty a difficult situation for most institutions in Nigeria, where we don't have the enabling environment to work, where industrial actions talk of the day. Then financing of our health system, our educational system. I'm not sure we've also gotten it right. You see most vice chancellors of universities, chief medical directors of teaching hospitals, where our medical students practice. Most of them spend their time here in Abuja, trying to see and ensure that their budget will pass through. Each month they are running to Abuja to be sure the salaries are released. So it's quite a difficult situation. Currently, some workers in the university, not only in the university, even in the tertiary institutions, are being owed upwards of 2 years in a federal institution. Simple reason being that they have not been captured in the IPPS payroll.
In the payroll system
of the government. You talked about the center where I work. I have about 10 workers, 10 staff who were employed 2 years ago. They have not received a salary since then. And some of them, what can you do? There's no way you can control them. So this system is really in a chaotic situation. And I pray the government is listening to me. We need to improve our educational system in terms of the financial resources, in terms of the enabling environment, in terms of the quality of students we admit in our universities. It's really a pitiable situation. That's just a tip of the iceberg of what I can say.
Wow. And you call that a tip of the iceberg.
Exactly.
I was open-mouthed listening to you. I mean, we suspected it. We all know that these are perhaps two of the weakest systems or sectors in this country. And it's so tragic because, as we have beautifully demonstrated, that where it is doing well, where we do well, I think, let me start by saying that we agree that education is critical for anything, really.
Exactly.
No nation can expect to progress if it doesn't have its education right.
Yeah.
Everything you do in a country is through an instruction, through teaching, and therefore the teaching methodologies have to be right. Of course, health is wealth, so also providing proper health care is so important. So it was exciting to listen to at least the achievement you were able to describe, but also heartbreaking to listen to the many, many deficiencies that continue to exist in this country, which need urgent attention, which we can never emphasize too much. And so I think we need to schedule another program just in discussing the problems. Why? Because it's important that these problems be solved if we truly want to advance and move on. But be that as it may, before we have to regrettably close this wonderful interview, let me say to you, as the committed and formidable doctor and lecturer that you are, what are your last words to our audience, to the many young people who are watching, but also to the rest of us oldies, mommies, daddies, grandparents, about this particular topic? What would be your takeaway words to them?
Nation building, education. We cannot do away without education to have a formidable critical mass of human capital in our nation. For me, and as I have said, if we don't have this critical mass of individuals in Nigeria who are well educated, we won't get it right. Soup without salt. And I will urge our governments, private individuals who can really assist in building our education system, our health system, to please come to the rescue of Nigeria. It's gotten to a critical stage which I can describe as a disaster. More importantly, now that even the few that we are educating are checking out, running outside to other countries of the world Can we look at the push and pull factors that are making our youths to migrate abroad? I would say we are only training for exports nowadays. Parents commit a lot of resources in training their children, but these children are leaving us and we don't know when they are coming back. And that will, in the near future, impact on our demographic status of this country. The young ones, the brilliant ones that we have trained here are leaving us, or you spend so much money in foreign currency to train your works abroad, and they're not coming back to the country. Who would then take over from us? I think my own generation, maybe the only people remaining here. Others are the Jackpot syndrome. So can we take a break and look, what are the push-pull factors that are making our people leave? In the health sector, medical tourism, we thought we were going to reverse it. No, we are not able to reverse it. We are still spending our hard-earned economic resource from this country for people to go abroad and get treated. And you know, when they go abroad, they even meet Nigerians, blacks. So why can't we find a way of keeping people to stay here in Nigeria for us to develop Nigeria? Nigeria is a beautiful country. You travel abroad, you feel like coming back home. Home is home. So get our youth back to the country and provide us security. Security is quite important. Can we be assured of our security? Can we be assured of quality education, healthcare for all citizenry? That is my take for all of us. Thank you so very much for inviting me.
Beautiful, beautiful. I had forgotten actually that I was supposed to be the interviewer. I was listening with rapt attention. There couldn't be a better closure really than that. While we're all agreed, it seems obvious that education is a very, very critical and important part of nation building. But we also must be truthful and admit that there are many, many problems with our educational system in this country. I think we will look at having more in-depth discussion on the weaknesses that continue to exist and therefore threaten our educational system. Particularly for us on the Sage, our focus is many times on young people. And I think that this issue of the poorness and weakness in our educational system impacts them most. But I was particularly struck by the statement from our guest about the fact that when we struggle and train, the best of them leave because of the circumstances that continue to exist. We all have a responsibility in our nation building. And it is obvious from this discussion that one of the places we must urgently focus and address is the issue of our education and the issue of the health of the people of this country. Thank you so much for being with us. Let's, even as we on set and to you, our audience, say, let us all think about what we need to do to make the important difference that needs to be made in this area so that we can indeed make our country great as it should be. We thank you. See you next week.